This week in IT SPARC Cast, Google and Amazon become friends with benefits. Apple tells its AI chief, so long and thanks for all the slop. And OpenAI orders a code red.
Did you order the code red? You're goddamn right I did!
Greetings and welcome to IT SPARC Cast. I'm your host, John Barger.
And I'm your host, Lou Schmidt. Let's see what's going on out there.
It's Monday, December 8th. IT SPARC Cast News Bites is a digest of the IT news over the last week with insights, opinions, and a little sarcasm from two experts, each with over 20 years experience working in IT or for IT vendors. And now, the News Bites. Okay, so our first story is about Apple. And we don't always go after consumer news, consumer electronics news, but we thought this was important. And it's related to AI, which we do cover quite a bit. And it's related to some of the things that we're going to have to consider in the IT industry. Apple has publicly announced that John Giannandrea, who has been their senior vice president of machine learning and AI strategy, will be stepping down in the spring of 2026. Now, that'll be around his 8-year anniversary. He came from Google, where he led AI for Google, and Apple got him over. And they've got a replacement already named. This is Amar Subramanya, and he'll be the new vice president of AI and will be reporting directly to Craig Federighi. So that in and of itself is interesting news, and it's something that we should talk about briefly. But what we really want to talk about is the implications of this. And as a big Apple fanboy, I'm also a realist, and I know that Apple has completely tripped over itself when it comes to AI.
Utterly.
Apple Intelligence is not what they promised. It's not even close to what they promised. And they're now almost 2 years behind where they said they were going to be. Well,
It's
at least
not
a year
even
and a
as
half.
good. It's not even as good as military intelligence. Come on, let's be real here. I mean,
You used to be in the military. You can say that.
I can say that. Yes, I can.
I'll step aside on that one. But Apple Intelligence has been a big disappointment. It's been a disappointment to me. A lot of people bought new hardware, especially the 16 models of the iPhones, specifically for Apple Intelligence, and it really fell short. Current rumor is that come spring, when they release Apple Intelligence and Siri 2.0, that'll be running Gemini under the covers, which is probably the best bet, considering that Google knows how to integrate their AI and a phone, probably better than anybody else. So that's probably going to be really the better way for them to go. But what that also means is that their strategy didn't pan out. And if you're the guy in charge of strategy for them and it doesn't pan out to that degree, then you probably have to take a walk.
But why should you care about this in an enterprise IT aspect? And let me go ahead and set the stage for you right here. Windows 11 adoption is slowing down precipitously. And we all know why. And the why is it doesn't answer any question that Windows 10 didn't answer, except it puts ads on your bars and all sorts of weird places. And it requires a security software patch that is hardware based, and it's obsolete a lot of your gear. Now, if you're an enterprise, you're like, but really Windows is carried both on its enterprise and its consumer aspect, and it's getting its tuchus kicked in consumer space. That people aren't upgrading. At the same time this is happening, we're about to see a convergence from Google of Chrome and Android. And that may turn out to be really, really interesting for us IT folks. It could lead to a much more streamlined and powerful cloud-based operating systems. Early looks from Rumor Control says it's pretty interesting. The point is, if you're in IT right now, you need to take a really hard look outside of the Microsoft ecosystem for hardware and desktop presentation and think about what else is out there.
You know, what I would suggest is creating, and I don't mean this in a negative standpoint, but create a class system. And by class, I mean the type of work done, not the importance of the work. And there are people that need high power local to their machine. Software developers writing code, they need to compile fast. But even that can be done on a cloud in a server.
Yes.
But there are times when you do need power locally. But there's a lot of time, most of what office work is, from a lot of standpoints, it can be done through a web browser. I mean, most things are done through a web browser these days, and they could get by with Chromebooks, really nice Chromebooks even. But a really nice Chromebook is still way cheaper than a Windows laptop or a Mac or something like that. And you've got the fine level controls over it. The Google system can really lock those things down, and so theoretically it should be more secure. Now the thing is that you have to decide whether you trust Google with your data, but that's a whole different.
But let's be honest
but
here.
Microsoft's doing the same thing now. So
anything that can be locked down to students,
yeah,
is pretty locked down.
Right.
And so let me give you an antidote with this. I got a Google Pixel book, one of the first ones, and I ran it for 6 months. Yeah, you remember me having that. Yeah. I ran it for 6 months as my primary in my last job just to see if I could do it. And I ended up at Supercomputer running a demo of an orchestration system directly on a laptop using the Linux extension. So these things are not jokes. And I'm not saying you should go out and get Chrome right now, but I'm saying a collision of ChromeOS with Android gives you a huge base of interesting software. You should be looking at Apple. You should absolutely be looking at Apple's ecosystem. Yes, they have challenges, but for John and I, it was a no-brainer to get this work done.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and move on to talk about what's going on in India?
So you guys probably saw this story break out last week. It was really interesting because it broke, peaked, and turned into, foam on the shore within a couple of days. But here's what happened. India mandated a cybersecurity phone registration tracking app that the government developed to be preloaded on the all new smartphones sold in India, right? The order was dated November 28th, required compliance within 90 days. Once installed, the users will not be allowed to delete or disable this app. So this is what the government said they wanted to do. The ministry said it was to address rising cybercrime, the misuse of mobile networks, fraud involving stolen phones, tampered IMEI numbers. What that means is that somebody could take the identifier for your phone, clone it, and do other things with it. And we know that there's a lot of bot farms in India. It's one of the ways they do this. People are screaming loud enough, they're going to try to do something. The app also enabled block or track lost stolen phones. And so the problem is, do you trust the government of India? Do you, John?
I try not to trust any government. So that's the take I take. And even a government I might like, that I'm governed by, that I think it's healthy to have some doubt there. Here's why. If you let the government start dictating the software or the mechanisms, it's going to get misused. It's going to leak. So we were talking about the IPA in the UK and the backdoor that they wanted into iCloud, and we assume any other cloud, that was going to get out. And once that backdoor was created, somebody else was going to get a key to it. Somebody at Apple was going to be disgruntled and leave, and they're going to take that information with them. Their hackers would start attacking it to find out a way in, and it was going to get out in the open. And in this case, this software, there would be a method of misuse for it.
And this is assuming that somebody new doesn't get into government and immediately turn it into a surveillance asset.
So, yeah, I mean, like, without getting onto either side of the current political climate in the US, the majority of people are either really happy with the current administration or really upset with the current administration. And those that are happy with the current administration are really upset at the previous administration and definitely don't trust them. So think about that from the standpoint. If we have the kind of sea change election we had, and the personality change and the change in just the methodology and thinking of those that are governing the United States, you probably have strong feelings about one or the other. And you probably don't want them tampering with your phone. So just think of it from that standpoint. That's the point that we want to make. And now we're talking at government scale. We're talking at business scale. That means that every one of your employees that you have in India now has an app on their phone that is potentially dangerous.
And who do you outsource to as you're moving towards AI? A lot of your stuff is going to India. Some of it's going to China. China has pretty much already implemented this. If the government in China says, give us all your data, you have no choice. That is just a reason. So here's what happened. Apple came out the next day and said, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We will not sell phones in your country if you try to do this. Yeah. And the next day after that, India blinks. Now, the headline I saw is it won't require Apple to pre-install State app on iPhone. Now, that did not say if it was going to go on some other Android-based stuff. The point is, you got to keep your eyes open for this stuff. It's out there. They're trying to do it. Apple, we were talking earlier about why you need to look at Apple for your desktop. Apple has one really amazing thing going for it when you're talking about privacy and security. And that is they are big enough to matter, and they have enough understanding of privacy that they will fight for you. And they have a good track record there.
They will. They will.
So
absolutely.
you should absolutely think about that. And that's sort of like our two for Apple today. But first of all, good job, Apple. They did a good thing here. They really did.
They did. Absolutely.
Now let's talk about where things are going with what you're going to replace your outsource with.
Right. So as we discussed Apple's AI woes, one of the darling of the AI community is OpenAI. And they made an interesting announcement last week. I think might have taken several people by surprise. So OpenAI CEO Sam Altman reportedly sent an internal memo declaring a code red. And this is with regards to getting version 5.2 of ChatGPT out and better. So he's not happy. And it wasn't real clear whether he was unhappy with the quality or the advancements or the speed or whatever it was, but he wasn't happy with where they were. And so projects are being pushed aside. They have this new personalized assistant that they're working on called Pulse. That's being put on hold. Everything that's not absolute priority is being put on hold. So it's all hands on deck to improve whatever it is that's wrong with ChatGPT 5.2. What you want in an environment like this is competition, and the different competitors keep leapfrogging each other in quality and capabilities and speed and the reduced use of resources and all those other things. And that's great because that's forcing everybody to run really quickly. And we see Grok hit the top of one chart. We see Claude hit the top of another chart. We see Gemini hit the top of another chart. OpenAI releases 5.1 and it's at the top of another chart. And that's, again, what we want. That competition drives a natural progress that instead of getting stagnant and lazy with what we have. But that is also can apply a lot of pressure if maybe you take a wrong turn or something else, you can fall behind. And with the amount of money that OpenAI is burning right now, we're talking about $500 billion being spent on data centers over the next couple of years. The amount of cash that they're going to be burning, they can't take too many hits. They've got to stay in the lead. They got to keep the user base growing. They're about to hit 1 billion paid users. They need to keep that growing in order to be able to spend the money that they want to spend.
And we got this sort of on the tails of an announcement that Gemini had a major jump in accuracy and usability. So Gemini, really, when Google started out with, what was it, Bard, I think?
Yep.
They started out with this. They were like one of the first. They invented TensorFlow and the tensor processor. It was like theirs to lose, which they promptly did. Then now they've jumped ahead again. And if you're doing coding, Claude is supposed to be the model to go to right now. We were interested in, going back to the top of this episode, talking about Apple and their jiggering. Apple's not out of it yet, guys.
Right.
This is a wide freaking open.
Well, and the interesting thing that I was going to bring up related to this is if you look at the history of tech, and whatever the tech is, the early pioneers don't always make it to be the establishment out there. If you look at the early PC wars of the 70s and early 80s, Tandy Radio Shack doesn't exist anymore. There's no TRS lineage out there. You look at the Altair, you look at all these other systems, Atari, Commodore.
They would have owned it.
Yeah. So none of those computer companies exist anymore. They exist in one form or another, but they don't, they just revived the Commodore 64, but they lost all of those years. And OpenAI could very well find itself in that place, that they did a lot of the hard work. They got the basics out there, and then somebody comes in and just duplicates it. But it'd have to be somebody like an Apple or Google to be able to do that. Probably not at Apple at this point. But so I think this is Sam Altman realizing there's a risk here. We don't have this in the bag. That we could easily find ourselves becoming the next, Studebaker. We could be the next one to just fall off. We were king of the hill, and now we're not anymore. So I think it's probably good that he's doing this. It probably shows that he's paying attention.
It is good. I agree.
Yeah. And again, we're going to benefit from it, because hopefully what we see with ChatGPT 5.2 is a big leap forward, and hopefully beyond everybody else, and then everybody else has to take another leap to catch up with them, and then we'll be seeing better and better AI as we go forward.
And I think what we're going to see is something like what we've seen in this next announcement.
So let's talk about what Amazon and Google are doing.
Let me talk about what Amazon and Google are doing. So Amazon and Google, according to Reuters, they announced a multi-cloud service for faster connectivity. This is interesting because you can already get this. There is a company called Alkira that spun out of the guys that did, I think it was Viptela, that was acquired by Cisco, that actually built this for their software-defined WAN. SD-WAN offering, and they offer this. You can go to for this today. But Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud jointly launched a new multi-cloud private connectivity service that lets customers create high-speed links between the two clouds within minutes rather than weeks, e.g. what this other company is already up to. Service connects AWS Interconnect multi-cloud with Google's cross-cloud interconnect. What drove this? Ironically, what drove this is AWS blowing up, right? Losing AWS East-1 and people not wanting to spend the money to actually make a multi-DNS situation, multi-tenant system. They appear to be launching sort of a backstop to each other, is what I read in this one. So early adopters in this one are Salesforce, which means if one of them blows up, you can shift your load to the other one pretty quickly. Service provides managed, secure, and encrypted private links between AWS, Google Cloud without requiring customers to provision physical server. So this is cool. And if you're using AWS and Google, or you're looking to diversify and you're okay with both of those, I would say you should definitely take a look at this. If you don't know what you're going to do, now, I'm going to preface this by saying I have talked to Alkira before. I've run through their training. I know how their system works. The cool thing about Alkira is not only can you go multi-cloud between all these clouds, you can also use the cloud network to hook up all of your branches. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But this isn't a commercial for them. It's something you need to know about if you're evaluating this offer.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So this isn't a replacement for the Alkira product, but it takes some of the features of Alkira. And there have been other ways to connect various clouds together in the past. It's just really interesting to see that they are partnering together in this way. And I think it's a good thing, again, that we probably should want to see Azure tied into this as well.
Absolutely.
Because there are people out there that want the cloud service that they want. So Lou and I used to sell network management software that lived in the cloud. And when we would talk to Walmart, they refused to buy
anything
something that
on
was
Amazon.
managed. And yeah, if it was on Amazon, they weren't going to buy it. And others were very enterprise focused, and they had already bought in on Azure. They really wanted to work on Azure. So that was the message we got. So we were doing that multi-cloud thing for a while. It's really important that you're seeing what your customers want and you provide that resiliency. And again, with that outage that went out, that was the only news for hours and hours and hours that day. And that's not what you want. That's not the kind of news you want. So
absolutely not. So going multi-cloud, anything that makes it easier to go multi-cloud is a good thing.
100%.
It's a good thing. So we think this is good. Do we get some feedback, John?
We did. We actually got a lot of feedback. And so before we wrap up, I do want to read through some of those. So if you've been watching us for a while, you know that a few weeks ago, Lou went to Supercomputing 25, sent back a lot of reports, and we released a couple of long form videos and a bunch of short videos. I think it was in the order of 10 or 12 short videos we released. We did get a lot of feedback on that, and I wanted to bring that up and talk about that feedback, but also really put a request out there for you to send us feedback on either something you like, you don't like, other types of things like that, so that we can get better. We can provide the kind of content that you want. So one of the things was Lou had stopped by Alma Linux, and they're really the successor to CentOS, and they're really doing some great things out there. And we had Alma Linux thank us for putting up the video. They thought it was wonderful. They loved the support. And then Scott wrote on LinkedIn, said Alma Linux stepped in at the exact moment the industry needed stability and clarity. This shift shows how powerful community-driven solutions can be when enterprises are looking for trust and long-term predictability. And he's spot on. That's exactly what happened. People were not happy with the direction that they were going with CentOS. So Alma Linux stepped in, created a viable alternative, and has been growing ever since. And that's great. We had a big thumbs up from Intel because Lou stopped by the Intel booth and talked to them. We talked about their liquid cooled servers that are going into racks. So they were really thrilled to see that. And then we had a really insightful comment from Dominic regarding the CXL memory pooling video. And I'll put a link to that right above Lou's head right now for those who want to watch it.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that's what he said. So Dominic said, this is very interesting. I've been thinking of CXL local configurations as the only use case. Having a CXL-based memory host, meaning something detached and not in the same server box, could be very useful and help reduce TCO of large enterprise apps like SAP, S4HANA, and things like that. Of course, performance is critical for HANA, so I would love to try and test HANA on this environment and maybe run the hardware and cloud management tools for that as well as the first step.
And the folks you're going to want to talk to for that are Liquid, and they're running the Titan 2 chip from XCon, which basically gets you a whole bunch of switched PCIe slots. It's cool beans. Nice. We're going to be doing a deeper dive into this later. But yeah, it does exist.
That's great. And that is going to cover this episode. And we couldn't do this podcast without listeners like you and all of those people that we just mentioned, Scott, Dominic, and everybody else. Thank you so much for your feedback. Do you have another topic you want us to cover? Do you have other trade shows you want us to go to? Any individuals you want us to interview? Let us know. Send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com or hit us up on X @itsparkcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below like Dominic did. If it's particularly interesting, insightful, or entertaining, we'll read it out on the broadcast. You get to hear your name and your comment there and our response. We do read every single bit of feedback, every comment that we get. We respond to most. And again, if it is insightful, we will read it out. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way you never miss a single episode. And from the world of enterprise IT, take care.
Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you next time.
You order the code red? Rona, code red? You're goddamn